Well. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the episode. Today, we're going to be talking about commercial contractors when working hard has just stopped working. I wonder if that's ever happened to you. Now, you guys know how I put the podcast together. I record the podcast itself, and then I do the intro, and then I do the outro. So I'm about to tell you a mistake I made in the episode. You're going to catch it because I jump on the sword right away. But I forgot the new cell phone number. And I didn't have it written down in front of me. You know, my simple system was a Post-it note, but that thing fell to the ground and somehow got taken away. So I apologize for that. So you were going to go through this whole episode right towards the end where I ask you if you want to download anything. When you hear these episodes, sometimes you want the reference document or you realize, oh, I should use that. Anyways, I forgot to tell you the number. So I'm going to tell you now in advance, even though this is the intro, and some of you think I do it in order. I don't do it in order because my simple system for putting together a podcast is usually I interview a guest. Sometimes it's just me, like today, and then I do the intro, and then I do the outro. And maybe I've said too much. Maybe I've taken the magic away from the podcast. Sorry. Anyways, the number, I'll tell it to you now too, is to reach out to me is send me a text at 315-903-7853. It's a different number than we had before because this is better when you ask me for a free download. I can get to you faster. So the new cell phone number is 315-903-7853, and then you just send me a message that says, today we're going to use the keywords for if you want to the ultimate get things under control guide. I think we're talking about in that one, and the other one is the go back report. But I'll leave it. Let's act surprised when you hear it. Okay, let's get to the episode. I apologize for the mix up, but sometimes it happens, and you just keep going. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I've got notes in front of me, so you're probably going to hear me flipping back and forth on my page. I've got an email here from a guy we're going to call Rob. Rob is in Regina, Saskatchewan. Now, I know some of you guys have seen the Adam Sandler movie. What's it called? Grown Ups, where the guy at the water park says he's from Saskatchewan. But Regina is in Saskatchewan. So it's a city. You got to get this picture first. It's a city of about 250,000 people. So it's actually around the same size as Saskatoon, or staying in Canada, about the same size as Kelowna. I went and looked up a couple of things just because I wanted to get a sense of how big Regina was so that you understood. Maybe you're in a city bigger, maybe you're in a city smaller. But the lesson today, if there's a lesson or if there's something to learn from Rob, is a commercial contractor. Let's put it in context for you. So he's in a town the same size. I went and did some research. The same size as Madison, Wisconsin, Toledo, Ohio. I think Klinger's from Toledo. Jeez, I'm old. Does anybody remember Klinger? Lubbock, Texas, Buffalo, New York, Boise. Boise's one of my favorite cities. That is an underrated town. I love Boise. Christchurch, New Zealand. If we go over there, we've got a lot of listeners in New Zealand and Australia. Hamilton, New Zealand is about that same size. Actually, over in Australia, Hobart, Australia, or Geelong. And then for you UK listeners, Regina, Saskatchewan looks like it's about the same size as Ipswich in the UK, Oxford in the UK, or Exeter in the UK. Anyways, let me get to the point here. So Rob, we're going to call him, met me through the podcast. You're listening to the podcast now, and that's how he met me as well. And then he came to, I think the first time we ever talked, he was on a time management webinar we did last year. And then he, downloaded some documents, and we've been going back and forth. Good guy, right? Calls me when he's got a question. It's nice. Sends me an email. So he sent, this note. I'm going to read it to you right now. Hi, Dom. Wanted to say thanks and ask a question at the same time. If you remember, we met just before Christmas. I wasn't ready to move forward, but I've been using what we talked about. I don't know why, but the guide you gave me stays in my truck, and I keep looking at it. I'm taking notes on it. You're right that I have too many people answering to me, and I'm coming apart a little bit. So that we're going to come back to that in a second. He said there, I'm going to repeat it. You were right. I have too many people answering to me, and I'm coming apart a little bit. So I moved one of my senior guys to foreman, and I finally found myself sitting at my desk wondering what to do today. I love it. That makes me very happy, by the way. I actually, when you guys send me notes or emails, I love it because I'm talking to a computer screen right here. That's weird. So when I hear back from you that you've put something in place, I'm very happy that you've done it. And it makes me feel like I'm making a difference to help you make a difference. Anyways, going back to his email, finally found myself sitting at my desk wondering what to do today. It's crazy. I just had too many people knocking on my door. It's still bad, but I was just trying to control everything. Then this is where he asked the question. He's asking me a technical question about the go back calculator. A lot of you guys have already downloaded that, or the 1 hour calculator. And he goes on to say, I listened to both your shows and I almost applied when you offered to coach somebody on the show, but I'd rather keep my business private, which I appreciate, by the way. As you guys know, I don't use real names. His name is not Rob, although he is in Regina. Just checking in. Thanks. Rob, we'll just say Rob. So there's the situation. So we had a conversation. I went back and looked at the notes from the convo. And the reason I want to tell you some of the highlights from that, obviously without using his name, respecting his wishes, but I want you to see where maybe you've got this going on in your company. And if you don't, that's fine. That's maybe just a nudge or positive reinforcement that you're marching in the right direction, moving forward. We talk on this show about being a forward-facing contractor, forward-facing in our business, marching forward, moving in the right direction. So his crew is six people, including him. So I need you to visualize this if you can. If you've ever heard of an organizational chart, which is really just drawing your company on a piece of paper. So imagine he's got himself, the owner. He's got one bookkeeper / office manager. Then he's got two senior carpenters. Each of the carpenters has an apprentice under them who's working with them on jobs. And then one of the apprentices is a lot more junior and one's more senior, if that makes sense. So one of those apprentices is kind of a floater, kind of a gopher. So sometimes that senior guy's working on his own. So he's got 6 people. Here's the problem. And it might surprise you. You know how I always say I'm looking for a revenue per full-time employee of $150,000 per employee. And we've talked about the math before. If you have questions, reach out. I'm just going to gloss over that right now. But his revenue with 6 people should be 900,000. He's at 880 grand, which, by the way, is very close, right? He's on track. But then you got to look at what's been happening. And I'm going to come back to the people thing in a second. If I'm looking at my notes here, last year was 880, like I just said, 880,000. The year before was 860-ish. That's what I actually have in the notes. He said 860-ish. So he's on track, but there's an insanity going on. And the problem is, and you might feel this, and you might know this, when I say this, you might recognize it in your own company, is that he's running an $880,000 business on $800,000 systems. And so that's why he's stuck. So he's not growing. He's not really shrinking, but he's going sideways. Now, over time, if your business is going sideways, it's actually going down. But let's leave that for the chief economist of some bank you deal with to talk about, not me. That's not what Dominic talks about. But he's running an $880,000 business, but he can't go past that, right? He was 860 the year before. He was 880 last year. But he's supposed to be around 900 grand. Why can't I get bigger? And for many of you listening, you understand it. You maybe have come to the point where working hard isn't working anymore. I mean, you have got a work ethic that makes most people shake their heads, and you still continue to go and work and work and work. But what I want you to do is start to think about the business a little differently. So first, thank you for listening to the show, because that's what this is all about, right? And second, let's get into a couple more details, because if you've got some perspective, if you join me now, just take a step back. Let's talk about Rob's situation. Remember I said there's the owner. He's got one office manager, 2 senior guys, and then 2 apprentices, right? And 1 apprentice is kind of junior, but it doesn't matter. They're all full-time. There's 5 people in his shadow. There are 5 people in his shadow, which means 5 people come to him for questions, concerns, updates, asking him questions, giving him information back, So he's got 5 people always tugging at him. Well, in the course of a 40-hour week, I know, I understand you don't work 40 hours, you work 100, but how much time does he actually have to get stuff done if everybody asks him one little question a day? 10 minutes a day of questions, that's 50 minutes right there. 10 minutes back answering, and it's not 10 minutes, but you see how this math works? Think with me for a second about a place you might not expect me to talk about, which is a fire station. There's a local fire department. Some of you are on your own fire departments. You might be volunteers. I know we've got a gentleman who's been asked to be on his Texas volunteer fire department for the city he's in. I'm sure many of you are in the same situation. How many people work in a fire hall at any given time? It's like 5 or 6. And that's because the chain of command can only handle that many. Beyond that, you need to start breaking down the chain of command to have other supervisors. In our industry, we call them foremen or supervisors or leads, lead hand, charge hand, sub-assembly, whatever. We've all got some leadership person that we could put in place or that's very common in our industry. And so I think I said this already when I read his email. So I moved one of my senior guys to foreman, and I finally found myself sitting at my desk wondering what to do today. It's crazy. I just had too many people knocking at my door. It's still bad, but I was just trying to control everything. So he took action. We had a meeting, great guy. We talked. It wasn't time for him to, do any of the coaching programs. No problem. I love talking to people. You guys can tell. But I gave him some takeaways. One of the takeaways is to get that, he was using the guide, which is the ultimate get things under control guide is what he's talking about, to give him some perspective. And then from that, he took action. And the action he took was to take one of the people in his crew and make them a foreman or a supervisor, as you might call it, right? And that breaks up some time for him. And now you can see through his email, he's found himself sitting at the desk going, what do I do? Maybe I'll check back in with Dom. Isn't that a tough thing to do? I love it. I love it. So he's running an $880,000 business, but he's running it on $800,000 systems. And ask yourself if you're doing the same thing. Have you changed the systems? Have you changed the operations? Do you have simple systems for you to leverage and scale this business? If you don't, there's always lots of free downloads on the show. Please grab those. If you don't, keep listening to the podcast. And remember, this show, and there's lots of construction podcasts out there, right? But this one is about the business of the construction business. Because my goal, what I do when I wake up every day, is I understand that I'm here to show you how to be a business owner who just happens to be a contractor, which is very, very different than a contractor who runs a crew. And Rob, that was close. Rob is stuck right now as a contractor who runs a crew, but he took that first step, right? So we had to piece together a couple of little numbers, a couple of data points. And then the solution, one of the potential solutions was on the table. Then he took action. He took action, right? So the two solutions are the two data points, the two pieces of info we needed is how many people are reporting to you every day? How many people are reporting to you every day? Actually, in the Get Things Under Control, the ultimate Get Things Under Control guide, there's a story in there of a coaching client I had, and we put a thing in place called Stop the Insanity. Because in my first meeting with these guys, sitting in their office, it was a merry-go-round of people showing up at the office door to just ask one question. And I thought to myself, I put my pen down and I'm just sitting back. I'm like, how can you guys get anything done? And of course, these two guys are frustrated beyond belief, running a great, and actually they were commercial as well, but running a great commercial contracting business, but there was always somebody asking them a question. So basically pulling them back, right? Imagine that you're in the starting blocks to a race and every single day is a race. The whistle goes and you come out of those blocks as hard and as fast as you can, but somebody is holding onto your shirt. Now, maybe you break free and you still take off, but you're still lost a quarter of a second on everybody else. Maybe that person holds you back for a minute or an hour. You're out of the race. You're just out of the race, right? Is that happening in your company? Are too many people holding you back? If that's the case, maybe it's time to look at putting some other levels of management in there. You don't have to, do anything formal, but who do they go to first for questions? It can't always be you, because when you get beyond 5 or 6 people, there's just too many people in your shadow. I'm going to call that, if we're talking about it as an organizational chart, that's big company consultant speak, which I promised not to do. But in your in your human resources planning with the organizational chart, blah, blah, blah. I can do that stuff. I don't like talking that way. But that planning is going to show you that you've got too many people reporting up to you. So try to have your crews separated into groups of no more than 5. So any foreman can only have 5 assembly leads or construction leads or trades leads reporting up to them, right? There's always a maximum. So look at that and put it in place for yourself. All right. How did we do here? Let me just go back and check my notes. So we talked about the email, talked about the summary. So we talked about the situation he's in, right? He's overworked and he's coming apart. What did he say? Coming apart from the inside or something. So I've heard that from other people that I've spoken to, and in my own companies, running my own companies, especially when we're making a change or we're going through growth, or maybe, something happen from the outside where we lost a couple of employees or we got a new contract and suddenly we're busier than we ever thought we were, I go back into that reactive mode. It's all hands on deck and I'm just firing on all cylinders, but I'm frazzled and I'm scattered, right? But I'm very reactive and always feeling behind. And if you're always feeling behind, I want you to understand you don't have to be that way. Give me a call. Let's talk it through like I did with Rob. I have to come up with these names because I actually know his name and I want to say it, but I can't say it. So anyways, like I said with Rob, we had this conversation. Always behind. But, think again, and this is my job as a business coach, and I'm not a life coach. You guys know that, right? But I do want to help you have a great life and be a great dad because that's important to me. Being a great dad and father and husband, that's really high on my personal list of priorities, even though we talk about business. So I'm not a life coach at all, but I am a business coach who cares about your life. If you're always overworked and you're always coming apart, how's that impacting your family? And is that a price you're truly willing to pay? Right? How's it affecting you personally? Like you as a person? Are you growing and learning things? Are you feeling like do you have quiet confidence in the growth of your business? Right? That's a good question to ask. Do I have quiet confidence in the growth of my business? And that's why I give all these free things away. So I got a system. I've got a handhold on the mount. I can grab that and I can move forward, as long as you're like Rob and you put it in place, right? And then I have to ask this as well. What about your health? Are you drinking enough water today? Are you going for a walk? Are you working out? Are you walking the dog? Are you doing whatever you need to do for your own personal health? Maybe smoke one less cigarette or maybe have one less beer. What do you need to do for your own health? Because you are the engine that runs the business. And if you're not there and everybody relies on you, then as soon as we remove you from the equation, guess what's going to happen? So we need you, the engine of the business, to be running on all cylinders. That means, yes, you're going to have to take time to go fishing. Yes, you're going to have to take time to take your wife out for dinner. Yes, you got to take a vacation. Yes, you got to leave early to take your kids or pick them up from school. Yes, we need you to do that so that you wash your brain with the good stuff. So you're ready and energized to keep going on. And I have spoken, I've been doing this for forever. We all care about our families. I don't actually talk to anybody here. I don't think I've ever spoken to anybody who said, I don't care about my family. Usually family's the biggest driver for why somebody reaches out to me and says, something's got to change. And so let's not dance around that. Are you taking care of your family? Are you taking care of yourself? And are you taking care of yourself and your health? Right. Anyways, it feels like, and the problem is, and I've been in this situation myself, guys, please don't forget, I'm not a theory business coach. I don't like theory. I like reality. That's why I talk like I talk. We can have fancy talk, but it's not going to get us anywhere. We got to talk about what's happening and how to fix it. That's why I like case studies and stories. That's why I tell real stories from real people. And I try to make it like when I sketch out something like this today, where I'm talking about a story, I want to make it approachable. And I want you to understand it's simple steps. There's nothing fancy here. The only thing fancy is saying, you know what, I should call Dom. I should put time in my calendar to talk to that guy. And whether you do or don't, that's up to you. But the people that do, they just take that one step forward, right? And the problem is you can't get ahead. And like I said earlier, working hard has stopped working. This is the problem, because at a certain point, you get to the maximum capacity of your business the way you're running it. Or as you heard me say before, let me just go back a bit. He's running an $880,000 business on $800,000 systems. So of course it's coming apart. He needs to recreate himself and think about being $1 million company. Have systems like he's going to be $1 million company. And that's going to pull him forward. And let me tell you, one day when he's doing $990,000 a year, another 100 or so on top of that, I'm going to say the same thing to him. You now need to run this company as if it's a $1.5 million business. That's exactly how people get ahead. There's no magic and there's no secrets. There just is no magic and secrets. It's about the discipline. It's doing the things work, doing them again, getting back to the basics and focusing on those basics, focusing on the basics of good time management for yourself, like we're talking to Rob here about, having a good team in place that's well organized and structured. The simple system is he took one of his senior guys and made him a foreman. And now he had time. I mean, do what you want with your time, but he wrote me an email, right? but presumably he's got other things now he can do, like answer more bids, talk to other he's a commercial guy, right? So he's going to reach out to other GCs, reach out to other PMs at other GCs, find more business. And now he's got a foreman. That foreman can have 5 people reporting to him. See how this stacks up? So if that foreman, once he's running properly, can have 5 people reporting to him, that's maybe another 2 crews with 1 or 2 people underneath that. And you see, that's how you grow the business, and that's how you work on what's most important as you grow. Anyways, the problem is working hard has stopped working at some point. And that's why I say we have to think. As business owners, we get paid to think, and we get paid from the neck up, not the neck down. Getting paid from the neck down was in the old days when we're on the tools. Actually, there's a gentleman, I know you're listening to this. He's in the northwestern part of the country, the Pacific Northwest. And in our coaching meeting last week, I just promised him, actually, I have to send that email. I need to send an email to his wife to get branded golf shirts for him, because it's time he got off the tools, and he loves being on the tools. That's where he started. But the trick now is we got to get him wearing slacks and golf shirts, because then he can't carry a piece of drywall. He can't just move that piece of wood, right? He's dressed differently. Not that he's not a contributor to the company, but he's working from the neck up. And it's a reminder, a very subtle reminder, that he can't swing the hammer anymore. He can't turn the wrenches. He can't run the machines. Not that he can't do it, but he cannot do it, if that makes sense. So I hope that part makes sense. And as you're listening, I promise I'll send that email as soon as I'm done recording this. So let's go back to the problem. Can't get ahead. Working hard has stopped working. And this, by the way, is also where I hear from people out of very deep frustration. They say things to me like, Dom, you know what? Maybe I'm just going to go back. Just me and a guy, like it used to be. Life was so easy then. And of course it was easy. You were doing 300 grand, you and 1 other guy. Did anybody do the math there? Me and 1 other guy, and we were doing 300 grand a year. 150,000 in revenue per full-time employee. And that's why you were working on the right systems. You had the right processes for your size of business. But when you've chosen to step up, when you've chosen to take on bigger contracts, when you've chosen to take on bigger challenges, then you have to change your systems to go along with it, right? So that's a frustration we hear. And, of course, you hear people say, oh, the business is running you, but that's kind of it. You're in a reactive position. I want to get you proactive. Actually, and listen, if you want this guide, it's called the Ultimate Get Things Under Control Guide. Just send me a text. You guys know that, right? Get under control. Get under control. Send me a text to that number. You know what? I changed my phone number. I'm going to have to add that on here at the end of the show when I do the outro. I apologize. I just changed my cell number because I couldn't have it going to my personal number anymore. Anyways, Get Things Under Control Guide. And then what was the other thing we just talked about? It was the go back calculator. That's a juicy one too. That one's been very popular. So if you want the go back calculator, just text me the word go back. Just wait a few minutes here. Once I stop record on this and put the outro on it, I'll make sure that I've got the right phone number. Sorry about that, folks. Okay. So there's the problem. We talked again about being a business person who just happens to be a contractor, which is very different than being a contractor with a crew, right? So the action, for Rob, it came down to 3 people, three things. I'm looking at my notes as I'm talking. For Rob, the 3 things were he had to work on people a little bit differently. So he needed to promote somebody or move somebody into that position. For some of you might need to hire somebody else or move somebody up, whatever it is. But there were too many people in Rob's shadow, and he had to change that. So he had some breathing space, right? The next thing is delegation. And I know this because it was in our conversation earlier. I didn't talk about it much. And a lot more that he's doing, to be honest. But he's a forward-facing contractor. I know that, and you've heard it. He now listens to both shows, even though one of them is not even his trade at all. He listens to both shows, and he is working on delegation and people. He's taking action. So of course he's moving forward. It might seem slow at first, but it always does until you build that momentum, right? So what you need the right tools. So grab the free stuff. Anytime you hear me mention a download on the show, it's already pre-made. You send me a text message, I get your email, and I'll send it back to you. It's really no skin off my back, and I want you to have it because it's sort of It's like an exclamation mark at the end of the episode. So you get the punch. And you know what? Download it, put it on your hard drive. Maybe you don't need it for a long time. Maybe you need it right away. Like Rob did, though. He took action. Boom, took action. Right. And then call me if you want, or send me an email, set an appointment. It's fine. Right now, I'm booking things about 1 to 2 weeks out. I actually do have an opening for a coaching client if anybody's interested, but that's a separate conversation. So anyways, listen, in a second, I'm going to give you the cell phone number, the new cell phone number to send the message to, and the message is going to be either get under control, and that's for the guide that Rob was talking about. And if you want the go back calculator, which I've talked about before, and it's super popular, just send me the keyword go back. I apologize, folks. I did not have my call to action number ready. Bad Dommy, bad Dommy. So I'll get that for you, and you'll hear it probably in the next 30 seconds. Thanks for checking in, folks. Let's get to that outro right now. Okay, I apologize. Here we are, maybe 10 seconds later, after I openly admitted that I forgot my own cell phone number. What's going on here? I need a business coach. So the cell phone number, if you want to get those reports. Hey, first of all, I hope you enjoyed Rob's story, his situation, how he took himself from, yeah. And by the way, he's on the start of the journey, as you can tell. I mean, he and I have talked on the phone, kind of didn't go any much further than that, but he took action. He didn't just talk on the phone because it was a visit and he wanted to waste some time. No, he took some, he invested the time. We got on a call. We started to pick things apart. I used 2 different numbers to sort of parcel things out. He had too many people reporting to him, pulling at him, tugging at his sleeves all the time. So he couldn't move ahead. And he's stuck. He's stuck at 880,000, which is not bad, but he can get this business with the amount of people he's got. No problem. He's going to cross the $1 million mark as long as he makes some changes. And of course, now that he had enough time to send me that email, he can respond to more bids. He can talk to more GCs or build relationships with new PMs, start to look at other projects. And now he's got a foreman, so he can start to delegate. Delegation is something that he and I haven't spoken about, but you see where all that's going, right? It's never just one thing. Same with me, same with you. It's never just one thing. There's a number of little things. And as you start to work on those little things, everything just gets tighter and tighter and tighter. But it takes constant effort. And if you're not used to that constant effort, well, that's why it's really hard. If you've got a business coach like me who's always there checking in on you, it gets a lot easier, right? Because you're like, Dom wants me to do that thing. So you go do that thing. Oh, Dom asked me to get that report. So you go get the report. And things start to really gel. And that's how you start to get the momentum. And then it's second nature. And then when you bring in your niece, your nephew, your son, your daughter into the business, that's the new normal. That's just how they run the business, with systems, with processes, with checklists, with everybody knowing the critical numbers of the business, right? And that becomes more normal, and you can take even a further step back. Anyways, I'll leave that for later. If you want a copy of those reports, one of them is called the Ultimate Get Things Under Control Guide. That is what Rob was talking about in the email. Then just send me the keyword get under control. Just text me that, get under control. And again, the cell phone number is 315-903-7853. And then if you want the other one, we just barely mentioned it here, but the go back report is how to figure out the cost of 1 hour of your time on a job site. Like, how much does 1 hour of your company cost? The actual loaded cost, everything including profits, including overheads, all that stuff. This report's very, very powerful. We've talked about it in other shows already, but if you want to get that, then just send me the keyword go back. If you send me both, it'll sound like go back, get under control. That'd be weird. Thanks for checking in, folks. I hope you have a great day, and I really do appreciate you checking in, and I'm sorry that I flubbed it, but Dom is human, and you are too. We're all getting better every single day.